Okay, so here we go. So I'm hanging out with indie developer Matt Gilgenbach of 24CaretGames. Recently distributed Retrograde via Steam.
Yep.
Also available on PlayStation Network. We've been talking about that and Kurosawa films and cannibalism and OCD.
Standard talk. That's what I talk about with everyone.
It pretty much is. I was trying to think of like when we first met. It was I think it was at an Indie KD3 party.
No, it was actually at like a TED Talk thing, or I think so.
Yeah,
you gave a talk, and then I'm like, hey,
2009.
I love your games. Let's be friends. And then you're
That's
like,
right.
I guess I'll be friends with this guy.
I totally, because of that the conversation topics. And and your voice is easily identifiable in a crowd, so that makes it easy to
I've been
remember
told
you.
that. Personally, I think I sound like a frog. Like, honestly, I don't hear like a frog, but like on the recording, I sound like a frog. Hopefully there's like Apple has an anti-frog filter or something. I don't know.
So you did a really awesome talk at GDC, which I can't wait for it to come up on the vault, because unfortunately I had to leave right as you were starting.
Yeah, you didn't miss anything.
Yeah, that's not what I hear, though, is that it was really, so it was about your experience developing Retrograde, which started off as a 2-year project and turned into a 4-year project.
I found
right?
a schedule, a very early schedule that was a 6-month project. At one point, it was a 6-month project. Well, I mean, the thing was, we didn't know what we were making, and we didn't know the market, and the market was changing. And so it was like, I was looking at games like Geometry Wars, right? That was like one guy, a month or 2 or 3. Right, so it's like, hey, 6-month project, something small.
I feel like the credits on Geometry War are much longer, though.
Yeah, well, but any game you work on, it's except for like Retrograde, where we just like thanked all of our friends and stuff. You're in there, everyone's in there. Here's a great credit story. So, a buddy of mine does lighting for video games, and he's did some lighting for film. And so we were watching the credits. I don't know what computer animated movie. And, like, when the lighters showed up, he cheers, like, woo! I'm like, okay, whatever. People turned around and shushed us during the credits of the film.
That's odd.
They shushed us. And it wasn't like we were, like, being jerks, like, oh, that guy's name is funny. We're like, yeah, go lighters! And we got shushed. So, only in Los Angeles.
So I wanted to ask you about, like, if you've gotten more feedback from your GDC talk after GDC was over. Like, had other people reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's been really great because I was scared. I was scared to sort of put myself out there, and certainly, GDC. I mean, there are some talks that are basically like, this is my game, this is why it's great. Why my game? Well, I mean, they're not like advertisements, but they're vetted by large corporations, and they want to make sure you're staying on message, the message being our game is great.
Yeah, well, and that's what I love about the Independent Game Summit, is because I feel like, which I co-organized with the other people, basically.
And you did a great job. It was awesome.
But I feel like we have that freedom because there are so many companies of one, or where the company owner is the developer, and so they don't have to check with anybody about what else they can say. They can talk about sales figures. They can talk about things that they thought were stupid about development.
Certainly, the title was called Obsessive-Compulsive Development, and basically I have obsessive-compulsive disorder, and it's tough. And it was very tough.
Which I just want to stop and say, because I think a lot of people in gaming, especially, will say, oh yeah, I have OCD, I like to go around to games and collect everything, but like Matt has OCD.
I have a clinical diagnosis. I see a psychiatrist.
Yes.
It's a thing, which actually that's funny, because I said that in my talk. I'm like, it's not I have to collect all the Pokemons in the game.
Right.
It's a dark and troubling illness, and I mean, OCD manifests different ways in different people. I don't really, do doorknobs every 3 times, or intrusive thoughts.
Like they explored in the last seasons of Girls. I don't know if you saw
I didn't.
But Lena Dunham's character we find out, had an issue with OCD in high school that's now reoccurring as the stress of adulthood is getting to her. But that's how it manifests for her character
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah. I mean, and certainly the repetition is sort of the most common, but I don't know if it's the most common, but it's the most often depicted in media. Whereas, you know, my struggles are with like intrusive thoughts, these, you know, troubling thoughts that I don't want to be thinking, that I can't get out of my head. And so definitely I talked about that and how it made the development really difficult, and how, you know, I kept feeling like a failure because my brain kept telling me, you know, you're screwing up, and you know, you got to do better, and you just got to keep working, and
which is something so many developers go through as well. I mean, I think it's independent game development with OCD is this very difficult intersection of life paths.
Yeah,
because those exact thoughts, I think, really come through a lot of developers' experiences on their own games, especially their first independent title.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult, and I think but you make a very valid point. It is applicable to everyone, because I found this quote, I don't know, in some film book. You know, you never finish a film, you just stop working on it. So with games, it's even more difficult, I feel like, to say, you know, this is something I'm going to stop working on. You know, I'm going to call this good enough, just because, like, technology and the industry is just moving so fast. Like, if you look at film, I mean, certainly people are doing amazing things with experimental film, and it's definitely growing as a medium. Mm-hmm. But, like, if you look at games, it's just this crazy bullet train pace, and, you know, it's so tempting. And, I mean, this is what we did in Retrograde, is we said, like, oh, yeah, these new games come out, you know, they really raise the bar. Okay, we're going to go back to the drawing board and see, you know, how we can do that. And so I think, you know, when you're doing an independent game, you really have to be able to let go and say, you know, this is it, this is the game. Like, I'm honestly terrified to do, like, a game jam, because, like, I want to do game jams, and I want to do it, but it's, like, it's difficult for me, you know? It's like, game jammers do exactly the opposite.
Well,
they're just
like, therapeutic.
Throw, whatever, spaghetti code. Hey, I got something playable. It's cool or it's not. And so certainly that's something I want to work on. It's like, you know, it's an action item in my, you know, things to improve on.
Yeah, we should totally do that. I would love to jam with you.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll let you crap out some of my ideas.
Okay. We'll see. So we can do pair programming. It's the new agile extreme programming. 2 people, 1 keyboard.
Ooh.
Total nightmare. Honestly,
That sounds like a Bennett Foddy game. Well, I think I'm going to close it out before my computer spontaneously combusts here. I think it's like turning into 1,000,000 degrees. But thanks for letting me record for our conversation
my
today.
pleasure.
And again, this is Matt Gilgenbach, 24CaretGames. Check them out, and check out the talk when it comes on the GDC Vault too,
yeah, it should be pretty interesting. I love for, you know, people to spread the word, spread the story, because I feel like, you know, even if you don't struggle with mental illness, or I think a lot of people do, honestly, with like depression and stuff, I think it's definitely helpful to gain some perspective, you know, into decisions you're making, and how, you know, your thought process might affect your game negatively.
Yeah, totally. You're not alone.